Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. I hope that everyone is having fun with the 15 years of EVE event that's happening at the moment. Later this weekend we should also get our Society of Conscious Stalled ships, especially for the Omega players with the awesome battleship. That looks like a pretty cool gift this year. And I personally am running some of these sites, although I'm not going for all of the points. I do want some more of these skins because I like them and I sometimes like to earn my own stuff. But at the end of the video we are also going to take a look at the prices of skins at the moment from this event, because I actually like him so much that I think that I want to get the full set for myself. Anyways, we are here for the market, of course, and as always we are going to start with some plex and stuff, and that's going to be at 1 minute. Like that. And very interesting here, plex in Cheetah, look at that, less than 3 million for the sellers, 2,850,000 for the buyers. If we go to the player owned trade hubs, it's 2.9 million for the sellers and still 2.850 for the buyers. So plex taking a dive down again. This will of course be the actual sale that was started by CCP showing its impact here, but this is very interesting in my opinion, that over a 1 week period where we come out of a sale period, you have this very volatile move up and then we are back down to the 2.9 million. To me, this is an indication that we are yet again close to that bottom range, and if CCP is not intervening, the market will want lots of plex. There will be lots of demand for that and will definitely drive the price back above 3 million, in my opinion, in no time. I think that there is enough hype around the new expansion, and if you're worried about people dropping off very quickly, I basically think that they have something to hold people over in June as well, with the coming of the faction citadels. That dev blog is out, I read it, quite interesting. This is of course for the nullsec power groups, but I think that it will also lead to some power plays here and there at least. Some players, some groups trying to be the last owners of all of those outposts and those stations, so that they basically get those awesome and very unique faction citadels. Those will not be reintroduced in the game in any way whatsoever. So very interesting in my opinion. With late May, the expansion, abyssal content for the high sec and for high sec for the care bears, for people that prefer the more solo type of play, and for the bigger groups there's also something to do when it comes to the faction citadel. So I'm seeing a decent amount of hype and demand for plex when it comes to the expansion, and so once the sales are over I do see an increase in price, especially May, June. After that, for the summer, of course, we get the typical summer slump for EVE Online. I don't think it's going to be anything different unless CCP comes out with some really exciting news for the summer. But overall, I am very excited myself for the expansion. And I've been spending quite a bit of time on CC as well, getting ready, getting to know the Abyss. More on that in the upcoming videos, of course. For the multiple pilot training certificate, actually back under pressure a little bit as well. I guess that's all sale territory. Selling now for 1,050 million ISK, and the buyers are just shy of 1 billion ISK. For a very long-term investment, I would say that this is still a possibility, because we are clearly still below the average for the training certificate. But plex to me seems quite interesting. You can clearly see that here off a 2.9 million price range on the chart we bounced off quite violently. We're there again on the current sale. It might happen again. Keep in mind, of course, this is crystal ball looking for me. This is all just speculation, but this violent upswing here does to me indicate quite strong demand. Next up, we have the skill extractors, also on their way back down towards that bottom of very close to 330 million ISK. Sellers coming in at 332, buyers at 321 million ISK. Again, same thing, look at the entire chart. It's not the 1 year low point, but you can clearly see that for the last 8 months or so, this 330 million ISK range was a bit of a bottom, and we actually have a second opportunity to grab some of these on the cheap, I would personally say. So if you're interested in that, whether it's as an investment or for personal use, this is, in my opinion, the right time to snag some from the market. When it comes to the large scale injectors, they're finally also coming under pressure back below 800 million ISK. That must be that plex price. I mean, part of a large scale injector is a skill extractor, which is of course very much tied to plex. As a result, there should be some pressure on the large scale injectors, and it's finally showing up. And we are now selling these for 801 million ISK bars at 785. Same thing as before. I don't see the bottom dropping out of skill injectors anytime soon. I think that people are still, especially with potentially more meta changes on the horizon, you know, we could really see a strong demand for skill points, in my opinion. So 800 million straight from the market and 785 for the buyers. Maybe I should take a quick look at all of this, because here 15 million, 16 million margin. Looks like it's opening up a little bit. Let's take a look at the margin on Plex. 2.9. No, that's actually very close. Multiple piracy certificates, that's decently close as well with 50 million. And then the extractors, 332 to 320. No, I would say that that's not that much of a margin. So interesting that in the large scale injectors on a slight downtrend, we do see a 16 million ISK margin opening up there. For the small scale injectors, also slowly under pressure. You can clearly see that here, although today's sales seem to be up a little bit. They are selling for 161 million ISK bars, are at 157. Again, very narrow margin here. So I'm a bit surprised by the large scale injector margin opening up there. And then the daily alpha injectors basically flat at around 55 million ISK on the chart. 60 million for the sellers, 52 million for the buyers. You can clearly see here a bit of pressure. Large scale injectors, a bit of pressure. Plex back down in price. So in general, it's a good time, I think, to stock up a little bit on some of these goods. Don't spend all your ISK into this single basket, but I think it's the right time to do so. Next up, we are moving on to our minerals at 715. Like that. And as always, we'll start with titanium. You may have already seen that on the ticker. Titanium back under pressure a little bit. Some days playing with prices below 5 ISK on average, which is not good, of course. The averages are slowly heading back for 5 ISK. So if you put the filter back on, although this is from perimeter, it's 502 in perimeter. But really the bulk of the trade still happens in GTA 4.4. 5 ISK 8 cents for titanium on the seller side, and buyers are coming in at 5 ISK 6 cents. So the margin is just completely gone. Sellers have been moving stocks up right up to the buyer price, and then we could go either way. There's either enough demand at just above 5 ISK to actually bring the price back up a little bit when at least some of the bigger players you know, stop dumping their stocks at these prices, or you know, buyers could say this is maybe our opportunity to go well below 5 ISK. You know, you just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sell orders to be filled, and then look at that jump down to 494. That would put some real pressure on the price. We could really go either way. The general trend here has definitely been down in the last few weeks in a pretty sustained manner, and as a result, I'm not sure. I can't say that we'll bounce off of 5 ISK. Perhaps the buyers will, you know, drop out a little bit and lower the price to less than 5 ISK. Look out below then. Next up, we have pyrite. Yeah, more bad news, and definitely not a good sign for the titanium market, as we actually dip towards 4 ISK on a final dip down. 1 year low price point at this point, 415 for the sellers, 412 for the buyers. We know that pyrite is not being doing well. At some point, this is also going to start to be interesting for CCP, I think, to maybe intervene in these markets. On the other hand, it's something that I've always been saying. Oops, and did I accidentally add this baby? So let's remove that. Something that I've been saying, this is generally now keeping Tech 1 stuff quite affordable, and you could create quite a nice baseline for this. For the game where new players, alpha players, have a very easy access to their Tech 1 ships to get to know the game, to fly up to battle cruisers if they want to, maybe even Tech 1 battleships. All of that stays quite affordable for them, quite doable for them. And then you've got Tech 2 on top of that and Tech 3 on top of that, which is obviously meant more for Omega players, but you know, if they want to keep that structure, that availability for new players to try and bring him in and give them a very comfortable baseline, after that, which is now for the first time what I'm seeing with the expansion into the Abyss, they could start side tracks. They could start to expand the sandbox horizontally rather than vertically for yet another layer that is going to be very difficult for alpha clones to access. No, instead they're now going with the Triglavian ships, which are basically next to the entire economy. I find that concept quite interesting, and that may be why CCP is okay with such low mineral prices. Alpha clones can't really sway this market either way, so this is mostly the Omega supply that we're seeing right here. Omega effort, you could see that we're seeing here, so lots and lots of mining, and they're basically fueling cheap Tech 1 ships for the new players at Alpha clones. So who knows, maybe CCP is actually quite okay with these very low prices for Pyrite, and we know Noxium as well. Does that mean that Mexlon is also dropping down a little bit? It's holding on at 75 ISK, so that's not so bad. 75.83 for the sellers, 72.76 for the buyers. It is still the Nullsec bottleneck, of course. Nullsec, when it comes to their own mining volumes, basically lack Mexlon to keep their supply chains running smoothly, which is why we're paying such a premium and potentially, of course, selling at such a premium on Mexlon. Still your go-to, your focus if you are mining from high sec. Try to focus on that Mexlon. Next up, we've got Isogen. Ooh, that's interesting. Doing something different from Pyrite for once. I mean, you can see that it's the same one-year downtrend almost for Isogen. That's very similar to Pyrite, obviously oversupplied in the volumes and mix at the moment, but we bounced off of 30 ISK and we're actually back on a bit of a higher note here. 34 ISK for the sellers and 32 for the buyers. How long will this keep up? That's pretty hard to say, of course. 50 million coming in here, another 90 million coming in here. It is going to, I think, keep bouncing in this 30 to 35 range for now. The bad news is, of course, that Pyrite managed to really break through yet another barrier, which you could see at like maybe 430 or something like that, where we're bouncing off here. Yeah, it's hard to say on this chart, but we were constantly bouncing up, not off of 4 ISK, but a bit above that, and now here we're just heading straight for it. So that's bad news. If it can happen in Pyrite, I think it can happen in Isogen as well. We could go to less than 30 ISK, which would be kind of crazy, but that's the situation that we find ourselves in. Next up, we have Noxium also trying a little bit, getting back to 325, so not bad. 328 for the sellers, 301 ISK still for the buyers. So that is the bad news, of course. I think it's the same with Isogen. Well, 2 ISK is not that much of a margin, but for Noxium it's pretty obvious that when some buying happens, and it's not even that crazy in volumes, price goes up. But the buyers, they're saying, you know, I'm comfortable with 300 ISK for my Noxium, so we're going to stay right where we are, bringing that fresh supply to bring the sellers closer to us, and then from time to time people will sell to these buyers as well. So Noxium, the increase in price, unfortunately, it's not forcing the buyers to follow suit at this point. Next up, we have Zydrine basically flattening out at a price below 700 ISK here. After the changes to moon mining, of course, the market has to find itself a little bit with all of that extra supply that has been coming online. 690 ISK for the sellers, 648 ISK for the buyers. So buyers below 650, I think that will continue to put some pressure on Zydrine, and this is basically the new reality for what were formerly known as the Nullsec mineral Zydrine. We are now paying what I think is close to all-time lows. I mean, maybe, you know, Nullsec minerals have always been very volatile actually, but they were definitely generally trading in a much higher range of 1000 ISK and even more. So as a result here, this is the new reality. Zydrine has basically come in line with all other Tech 1 minerals, you could say, and it's now basically being supplied from all types of spaces and is, well, oversupplied for the destruction that we know at the moment. Next up, we've got Megasites, same thing, bouncing off of a 625 price range here. You can clearly see that massive downtrend, 1 year low price point, 680 for the sellers, 656 for the buyers. So just a slight premium on Zytrine, but it's not even that much anymore. And then Morphite is continuing to try and stay above 9,000 X. So here you can clearly see that the moon mining chains have not impacted Morphite that much. It's also not the same as the other minerals. It's actually tied to the Tech 2 economy. 9,100 is for the sellers, 9,050 for the buyers. The margin is gone. The market has spoken. 9,000 ISK for Morphite is the current trade range. I personally, if you look at the rest of the chart, would wait for the chart to dip decently below 9,000 ISK before trying to buy orders 8,500, something like that. Would be my time to try and jump on some Morphite buying. Next up, we have PI. That is going to be at 1535. Like that. Let's take a look at the PI market. Here are the broadcast nodes, and that has basically recovered from, I'm not sure what this hype here has been. We saw that in the last few weeks or so that we were paying a premium for advanced PI materials, which in my opinion was an indication that the market expected some sort of news around new structures. We didn't get that at FanFest. It's really not on the horizon at the moment, and as a result that price has dropped back right to its normal average between 2 and 2.25 million ISK. 2.2 million for the sellers, 2.07 million for the buyers, back to a pretty normal price range for the broadcast node. So this, I think, was basically the market being wrong a little bit, unless someone has been really buying lots of advanced PI material for some sort of construction project. Sometimes that does happen in nullsec, but unless that's what's happened here, I think that this was market speculation on a bit of structure hype that didn't materialize. Next up, we have the construction blocks that are also giving their gains. As a result, 13,000 ISK packs in that trade range, 13,400 for the sellers, but look at that, 12,000 for the buyers. I would say that we're still selling a touch above average, but the buyers are back on an average trade range. Next up, you have the consumer electronics holding at 13,700, something like that. Also, I would say back on an average price range, 14,000 for the sellers, 12,800 for the buyers. Decently wide margin here that I'm seeing in these refined PI materials so far, but the average is right on the middle of the chart. Coolants last week were doing well and actually going back up a little bit with bottoms at around 8,000 ISK. We are now trading for around 9,000 ISK. 9,200 for the sellers, 8,600 for the buyers. Very nice to see that average decently slowly creep up, nothing too volatile here. Let's hope that it's a sign that this is actually here to stay. And I think it might. Coolants is tied to fuels. We know that now with all the extra refineries, there should be a bit of extra fuel demand out there, I think. And as a result, we are supporting 9,000 ISK rather than 8,000 ISK. I think it's here to stay for now. Although, of course, 12,000 ISK as a usual average is going to be a pretty tall order. Enriched uranium holding basically very flat in the last few months at the current trade range. 11,700 for the sellers, 11,100 for the buyers. Definitely a smaller margin than the other refined PI materials so far. And look at that, a big dump here of 618,000 units at the lowest price of 11,690 is probably going to help either keep this stable or go back down for enriched uranium. Integrity response drones, let's see what's happening here. 2.5 million average, and we are still a little bit above that. I'm slightly surprised. Buyers at 2.7 and sellers at 2.7, sorry, and buyers at 2.5 million ISK for integrity response drones. So still some stronger demand than usual there, it seems. Mechanical parts try to go back up a little bit as well. Try to go to 9,000 ISK, even very close to 10,000 ISK. That's nice. Same thing as with the coolants, although the 20-day moving average is very flat. We are from time to time trying to ask for a higher price for these fuel-related PI materials. 9,400 for the sellers, 8,600 for the buyers. Again, pretty wide margin here. Nuclear reactors staying flat below 100,000 ISK. 99,500 for the sellers, 96,000, yeah, okay, for the buyers. Get rid of this one buy order, you're at 93,000. Here I would say, yeah, you could definitely start to stock up on some cheap nuclear reactors for the next spike, which as we can see on the chart here, potentially goes to 130,000 pretty easily. Robotics fuel related, hovering around 100,000 ISK. Well, it's better than the bottom at 90,000, of course, so I'd say that that's an okay price. Again, 102,000 ISK for the sellers, 97,000 for the buyers, just like with coolants and potentially mechanical parts. Oh, I had to sneeze there, excuse me. I think it is showing a slightly stronger demand in fuel at the moment, and thus there's a bit more demand for these PI materials as well. Next up, we have the self-harmonizing power cores staying below 2.25 million on the chart, definitely around its average yet again. 2.2 for the sellers, 2.1 for the buyers. Superconductors, after a very strong late March, early April at 14,000 ISK, has to give back those gains. We're back at 12,400 for the sellers and 11,600 for the buyers. Again, reasonable margin, 800 ISK, that's not bad. You know, it's not 10%, but it's not that far off of it. And as a result here, back on average, yet again, that seems to be the story this week, except for a couple of outliers like the test cultures that are still holding at 11,000 ISK, 10,800 for the sellers and 10,200 for the buyers. Here above average, obviously. And then finally the wetware mainframes also diving back below 2.5 million, average 2.3, something like that. So selling for 2.5, buyers are at 2.24, trying to get back there. So for this week, PI, in my opinion, is definitely a normalization of the market. What I do notice is that for the outliers, those that are a bit more expensive in price, the margin is pretty close. So the market is saying, yeah, we're willing to pay that premium for those goods. But everything else, and especially the refined ones that are coming back to their average prices, are actually opening up quite reasonable margins that, in my opinion, will provide on a bit more supply some nice buy opportunities as well, because the buyers are just going down and down, dragging the price back down. So not too much to do right now, nothing too crazy in the PI market, but potentially I'm seeing buy opportunities open up here because of the wide margins. Next up, we have the Tech 1 market at 22.15. And of course, with minerals doing what they're doing, I don't expect a lot of movement here. Apocalypse, as you can see, just straight up flat at around 140 million ISK, which is very affordable for a battleship. Here's the Caracal going back down. Are we actually below 9 million for the sellers? No, just above that, 9 million, but 8.3 million for one buyer, and it's actually 8 million for the buyers. That's actually a surprisingly large margin again, and definitely not showing strong demand, but rather oversupply. Catalyst, same thing, right? Coming back towards a million ISK, 1,100,000 for the sellers and 990,000 ISK for the buyers. The Drake, you know, 45 million before before this massive dip, which is the arms race event, was the average, and we're basically staying below that. Sellers coming in at 44, well, practically 45 million, but just below it, and 41 million for the sellers. So again, it's that mineral pressure. The one thing is, this is an arms race event for the people that might be a bit newer here. This was a special event where CCP just gave a huge amount of Tech 1 battle cruisers and Tech 1 battleships as rewards for doing almost anything in the game, and even alpha characters would very easily get those ships. The result was a massive glut in supply and there's a massive drop off in the price. Most of them have recovered by now, but it does make the chart look a little bit weird, of course. Here's the Ferox next. Again, you can clearly see average 45 to 50 million on average, a dip lower than that, but now here is yet another dip. So we are clearly selling Feroxes for less than average, a bit below 45 million for the sellers and 38.5 for the buyers. It's a margin opening up here. Quite interesting. Here's the Hurricane. Obviously, this is a bit of an unusual point that is going to make this chart pretty bad for a whole year, I think. So we'll give it a couple of weeks to see if it gets fixed, but this is obviously not great. selling for 43.8 million, buyers at 41 million. Just look at the lack of demand here. That is pretty obvious, painfully obvious, I should say. Megatron next, try to stay above 150, is not succeeding. So again, that pressure is on. Sellers coming in below 150 million, buyers at 140. Really trying to drive the price back down. Oracle, same thing, definitely back below its average price. 68 million for the sellers and 63 for the buyers. The Raven, same thing, look at that, staying above 150, you know, doing really well with the recovery from arms race, but now here playing with 150 on the chart. So just above that for the sellers, 141 million for the buyers. Retriever, same pattern. I mean, this is really the mineral pressure starting to show up. People that have been stocking up in the last few weeks have better margins on their production, are able to bring new stuff to the market, like all of these at 20.2 million, and that's just the reality. Almost 19 million for the buyers. Tempest actually did really well. Went up to 160, which was right around the average price for the Tempest. Now 157, so it's back under pressure a little bit. And what I do notice here, 141 for the buyers is in line with all the other battleships. So it's really a bit of a lack of supply on the Tempest. Maybe it's a bit more expensive to make as well. That is commanding this higher price. It just means a higher margin though for the Tempest, because the buyers, they're saying 140, around that range for my battleships, please. The Thrasher next, same thing, actually heading for a 1-year low point here. 935,000 for the sellers and less than 800,000 is for the buyers. That's clearly a sign of pressure as mineral prices went down. Tornado, a bit of volatility at the end, currently sitting at 60 million, 60.5 million for the sellers. Again, lack of demand is quite obvious here, 57 million, so it's obvious that we are at the bottom price, but it's yet again below average. The Tristan next, same pattern, heading for 400,000 this time, for 45 for the sellers, 260,000 for the buyers. Look at that margin opening up. It's pretty obvious that there is not enough demand for all the supply. And then the Venture is doing okay compared to the rest. And then finally we get the Vexor as well. That's, well, again, normally trading for around 10 million ISK, now selling for 9.4 million, with 159 of them still coming in here. And then 8.7 million for the buyers. It's just a situation for Tech 1 ships. And as I've said in the mineral category as well, it's not necessarily a bad thing for the game, because it makes all of these ships very accessible to new players. You feel less bad about losing them, so as a result, perhaps that's the baseline that CCP is happy with. Keep Tech 1 really cheap, really affordable, so that newer players can really get comfortable in those ships, and then work on the progression path from there. Which brings us, of course, to Tech 2. That's going to be at 2740. Like that. And Tech 2, of course, is coming from a pretty volatile period, which changes to moon mining. At first we had, of course, a very strong premium, because there were a couple of weeks where all new moon POSes back in the days had to be replaced by the new refineries. All of those had to be built, so we had a time where there was really very expensive Tech 2 ships because of the lack of supply of base materials. So we were talking 35 million is for a Tech 2 frigate. First leg down here, we're down to 30 million or something like that. And I personally thought that there was more potential to go down even lower, especially when around here I think we should have gotten the moon material supply from 0.5 systems and wormhole space added to all of this as well. That just hasn't materialized, and at the moment I'm basically accepting the fact that Tech 2 is going to be more expensive than what I was hoping. I was hoping to look for bottom prices, low prices, buy opportunities at less than 25 million ISK. It just basically starting to look like anything that is below 30 million ISK is starting to get into an interesting territory. So the Ares, for instance, is staying 32 million for the sellers, despite 409 of them coming in here, 30 million for the buyers. There is no just no budging on that at the moment. The Cerberus, a jump up to a 1-year high point. This is probably related to the current event. 325 million for the sellers, 307 million for the buyers. There's really not that much choice when it comes to the current event. The cruiser is just so fast, orbiting you at 35 kilometers, that you either go with you know, the general setup of missiles and drones, and something like the Cerberus can probably handle that side quite easily, or you have to go really specialized with stuff like double webs and things like that in order to catch up to that cruiser. So I think that is why we are seeing a jump up to yet another 1-year high point for the Cerberus, probably event related. Next up here we get the Claudio, bit of pressure at the tail end, but coming from 35 million ISK, so you can clearly see here that a bottom price that triggered the jump up to 35 million was below 30 million. Same thing here, we went up from less than 30 million to 35 million. Still selling for 33 million, 31 million for the buyers. This is basically nope territory for me. Or try to sell if you happen to have some of the cheap ones here. Next up we get the Crow, again the bottom 27.5 million. We played with that twice. Now we're staying substantially above 30 million and basically flat here. 34 for the sellers, 30.6 million for the buyers. Crusader next, actually a little bit of a jump down. That is interesting all of a sudden, right? So we managed to go up to 31 million for the Crusader, currently selling for 31 million, but buyers, look at that, 24.1 million. I would say if you can pick up a couple Crusaders at that price of less than 25 million, if something happens in also a couple of interceptor fleets get blown up, then you'll probably have made a really good purchase. So all of a sudden, Crusader buyers below 25 million to me looks quite interesting. A first slight buy opportunity in my opinion. The Heretic Advanced Destroyer, of course, coming from a 1-year high of almost 100 million ISK, coming back down to a more reasonable 80 million for the sellers, 73.5 for the buyers. Here is the Hound next. So here again you can see bottom prices less than 30 million, but not by much. Currently selling for 44 million. 35 million for the buyer. So the stealth bombers seem to really already bring back that volatility. Nice little sell opportunity for the Hound, and I was hoping to see buy opportunities closer to something like 25 million ISK. That just never materialized, and I don't think it's gonna happen anymore. We've been going at the new moon mining mechanics for long enough now, so I'm going to put 30 million as that barrier. When we're seeing buyers substantially below that, I think we should consider our trades at that point. The Ishtar next, also of course 1-year high points, probably also a ship that can handle the event at the moment. 300 million for the sellers, 286 for the buyers. Here is the Manticore stealth bomber, yep, and look at that, going up to 45 million ISK here, again playing with 30 million as the bottom, 48 million for the sellers. Holy hell, that's definitely a very nice sell opportunity again, and look at that, we actually reach a 1-year high point at 48 million at the moment. Pretty crazy situation, but that's the second stealth bomber that we see this in. Here is the Nemesis next, actually staying flat at a bit above 30 million ISK, 34 million still though for the sellers, 29 for the buyers. And we do see that for the Nemesis 25 million was possible, so I would say for most frigates 30 million, for the Nemesis probably closer to 25 million on the chart. Pontifex, yet again close to 1-year high, 118 for the sellers. So at first I want to focus on the frigates. I think those trades are easiest and most accessible. Here's the Purifier next. Again, look at the bottoms, 30 million, and then the high points here up to 40 million. Currently selling for 34, buyers at 32, so that's a nope. Again, I would wait for the chart to reach 30 million, look at the buy orders and probably make a move there. We get the Raptor next, again same thing, staying above 35 million. That's a big no, buyers at 31. Don't like it. Saber, pretty flat at the current range, 75 and 70 million for the buyers. Stiletto, look at that opportunity, right? 45 million for the sellers. We're back at 30 million. Where are the buyers at? 29.1 million. Does look like there's a decent amount of demand for that. You could consider it, although personally, of course, I prefer what was happening in the Crusader on the chart here. But the Stiletto, 29 million, you can clearly see that the potential of 35 million is pretty easily possible. So maybe on the Stiletto. And then we've got the Stork, that's just, you know, a bit too expensive in my opinion. And here we've got the Tyranny staying quite strong above 30 million, but another one of those that dips to 25 apparently, which is, in my opinion, what might happen for the Nemesis as well. So the Tech 2 market at the moment, most of these ships are commanding a strong premium. Very interesting sell opportunity in the Manticore and the Hound all of a sudden. Both of these are definitely spiking up right now. And well, the cruisers are of course mightily expensive at the moment. It might not be only the event, but of course if you're prepping for the Abyss, then Tech 2 cruisers are also, I think, close to your best options at the moment. So if you want to really grind those out, then you are going to go with something like a Cerberus, like an Ishtar. An Eagle is also really good, and I'm having lots of success myself. A bit of a preview for you guys on something that I've been using. Advanced Cruiser, Heavy Assault Cruiser. I've actually been using the Sacrilege to great effect, and I'm probably not the only one. Look at that. All of a sudden shooting up to 330 million. I think that this is Abyss prep, to be honest. These premiums on the Tech 2 cruisers. Next up, let's move on to Tech 3 ships at 35.45. Let's take a look first at the destroyers. You may already have seen that some weird stuff's been happening with the Gila. So here is the Confessor basically staying pretty flat. A slight spike up at the tail end here, but staying below 40 million ISK, so 38.7 for the sellers, 34.5 for the buyers. Still pretty damn cheap, of course. 1, 2, 3 buy opportunities when we had buyers probably close to 33 million or something like that. That seems to be mostly over, but we are definitely still in the cheap territory. Supply wise, still 54, 50 here, but it is slowly normalizing for the Confessor. Hecate next, same picture of course, below 40 million ISK, supply wise 1756, you know, it's starting to normalize. 35 million for the buyers, so your real buy opportunity is probably over. The question is, what's the next move? Of course, will Nullsec start some real war, some real destruction? Then I do think that if you hold on to a couple of these at the current buy prices, you might be in for a pretty good trade. Next up here we get the Jackdaw, same pattern, selling for 39 million, buyers at 37, but supply wise 37, 29, 37. This is really primed for you know, have some real action around the faction citadels. Something that's very popular are these Tech 3 destroyers. As these fleets lose a couple of those, supply just isn't there to replace them right away. This, in my opinion, is really primed. If you have a couple of these on the cheap side of the buyers, then potentially on Nullsec action, you could really be in for a pretty good trade, because, you know, a couple of weeks ago we were talking 400-500 Jackdaws, 400-500 Confessors that were still in the supply pipeline. All of that is gone, and the price has not done anything too crazy. The buyers have gone up a little bit though. And then finally we also have this Vapul that's actually already spiking up a little bit. What's happening here? No, it's a weird spike, and the one that is still oversupplied here, 36 million for the sellers. Look at that, 30.5 million for the buyers. So if you have yet to purchase any of these, I would say that this Vapul is looking pretty interesting this week. We've definitely spotted opportunities in the Confessor and in the Jackdaw, but both of these are extremely popular in Nullsec. But now here this Vapul, 30.5 million for the buyers. In my opinion, definitely a buy opportunity to pick some of those up as well. Next up, the cruisers. That's gonna be a completely different picture. I think for some reason here is the Legion still staying at that 200 million premium price, 194 for the sellers, 184 for the buyers. Supply wise, it's nothing too crazy, and in my opinion, this spike up here is manipulation. I think that basically the Tech 3 cruiser market at the moment is small enough that a couple of big players are just playing around with it. Loki going for a 1-year high point at 300 million ISK, 320 for the sellers, lack of supply. You know, this is doable for a fat wallet. 282 for the buyers. This could also be related to the event, of course, because I think that a Tech 3 cruiser is one of your safer bets there. So the Loki, yeah, 300 million, 1-year high point, a lack of supply, and Yeah, my personal speculation, here's the Proteus actually going up in price as well, up to 175 for the sellers, 152 for the buyers. And again, look at that, it's maybe 150 Protei on the market. For a big wallet, this is doable. You can buy up the lowest end and then start to relist at a higher price or something like that. And then here we've got the Tengu, also quite sharply up in price to 230 million ISK, 186 for the buyers. Look at the lack of supply. This is something that can be pretty much bought out if you really want to as well. The volumes aren't too crazy here either. Nope, nothing here, nothing here, and nothing here. So in my opinion, yeah, this is being manipulated at the moment by one or some big parties to try and get the most out of these Tech 3 ships at the moment. So pretty crazy situation. Look at the Loki. I mean, 300 million ISK for a Loki is definitely kind of crazy. And there we go for this week's extra product. I am interested, this is just a personal indulgence here, in the new skins. Because I want to know a little bit what their price ranges are. I have the Apocalypse skin already, and really of course the charts are going to be pretty bad because it's just such a new and unique item. But 7.5 million for the sellers for the Apocalypse Capsuleer Day skin, and I think that the regular ones look the best with the dark, then the blue, and then the white at the back here. I think that these look the best. So I already have this one. It only costs 7.5 million. Then we have an Apostle Elite Capsuleer skin going for 2 billion ISK. That's pretty crazy. It does look really good, and it is of course on a capital ship. So yeah, okay, lots of gold here. I can see the attraction in this Apostle skin. Apotheosis Capsuleer Elite skin not available. Apotheosis Capsuleer Network skin going for 75 million ISK, still pretty expensive. And what does that look like? Okay, definitely quite noticeable, but to be honest, for these SOTC skins, not that much interest for me personally. Avatar Elite, that is still quite expensive at 2 billion. Ooh, it does look quite nice. On our Mars ships, this Elite skin does really look very nice. Then we get a capsule skin not available. Cerberus going for 10 million, and that is just a day skin, which let's take a look at that. Oh, of course, it's Cerberus and not the Titan I was thinking of, but look at that. This looks really great in my opinion. So for instance, the Cerberus skin, I'm either going to hunt a bit more for that, or it's 11 million for the sellers. Definitely quite affordable, and in my opinion looks absolutely great. So that's definitely one that I want. The Claw is Capsuleer Day skin as well, going for less than 9 million, quite affordable. The Claw is always a bit tricky to skin for, so I think I actually have that one. Next up here, the Drake, 11 million ISK, but just look at that. That looks so good that it's made for the Drake. I mean, it's basically cut in half. The different shades with now the dark here, and then this looks really good in my opinion, and as a result here, actually quite affordable, 11 million ISK. Here the Erebus, that's what I was thinking about when we were going at Cerberus. That's an elite skin, 1.5 billion ISK, and here honestly, doesn't work that well for me on the Erebus. Worked great on the Avatar, but maybe this line should have been brought back a little bit more to be a bit more gradual. Of course, they want the 15 right here to be quite that is nice, of course. That 15-year anniversary band here, so super clear. Actually makes me want to go back to the Drake and see if you can spot anything like that. Yeah, here you get an XV as well on the blue. So okay, I personally don't like it that much on the Cerberus, but that golden XV is pretty cool, of course. And where is it on the Avatar? I am curious. I don't fly Titans myself, but yeah, man, this looks really nice. I have to admit. And yeah, exactly as I said, right? This is much more big and pronounced with the darker part. And you've got the gold part here, and then the white at the end here is not as overpowering as it is on the Erebus, where it's really feels like 2/3 of the ship basically. So Executioner, let's take a quick look at that. But again, 3.5 million, very affordable. I think I have that. Gnosis has an elite skin that's not available, and a Capsuleer Day network skin. So that's again the Society of Conscious Thought ships. I don't think it's easy to skin for this. I don't think it's actually needed. Hyperion, 8.7 million, very affordable, and just look at how cool that looks, right? I like the fact that the white at the end is not completely overpowering. It's mostly a dark skin, then we've got the blue XV, and then we've got some white at the tail end. Very nice in my opinion, it looks awesome on the Hyperion. Worth the purchase, less than 9 million, definitely doable. The frigates apparently 3.5 million, I think this looks great again. Ishtar, curious, that's a bit more popular, 15 million for the Ishtar skin, but also looks quite nice. XV here, some whites, definitely some differences here, not the same pattern everywhere here. I like it, definitely something that I'm gonna hunt for or buy. Leviathan Elite is not even available, and much better in my opinion, right? From nose to gold, half the ship in gold. Doesn't work too well on the pattern it seems here, so it doesn't look that as good as for the Avatar, but in my opinion still better than the Erebus. Liv, I'm not even sure what the hell the Liv, oh there we go, yeah. Kaldari, no this is Minmatar, but the Kaldari ones seem to be pretty tricky to do. That looks okay as well, but the elite skins quite expensive of course. The regular Capsuleer days, which is what I'm interested in, 9 million for the Malediction. Quite affordable, so we'll go to the Myrmidon, which I have actually. This dropped for me, and I again really like this one. It's only costing 8 million ISK or 8.5 million ISK, and look at that, the lovely blue XV, and you've got this nice, you know, you get the dark, you get the whites, but neither of them are really like completely dominating the ship. Absolutely love it. Ninazu is an elite one that's not even available. Here is the Omen going for 5 million ISK. Very, very common, but again for me right on the money. On this side here you've got the white at the end, but it's not covering the entire ship, and then on this side it's a little bit different, so absolutely I am loving that. The Oracle skin, let's see, quick look at that for 14 million. That is definitely quite unique, with basically the white on the right, the black on the left side, and then here the XV blue. Oh, I like it. I'm actually gonna buy this one. 14 million ISK. I want that for the Oracle. Praxis, not too interested in that. The Ragnarok final Titan. We should take a look at that. Again, I feel like it's a bit trickier to really make the skin work as well on the Kaldari and Minmatar ships, just because they have so much detail on the model there, whereas for the Erebus works okay on the visuals, but the Avatar is the best. So here again I prefer this because it doesn't feel like it's, well, the white, yeah, it's a bit too much for me. I think I would have preferred it maybe if they'd switch it up here, and then on the other side, yeah, it's nope, it's not doing it for me. Sorry, the elite skin. The Raptor, very affordable. What does that look like? Ooh, a white nose compared to, yeah, that's pretty cool. And look at that, just going through here on this wing. I like it. Synesis, not interested. The Tempest though, 6.5, again, very, very affordable. And Minmatar, they're just tricky to skin for. It doesn't show all that much, although you do get the nice XV and the white highlights. Tornado next, going for 9 million ISK. Again, yeah, Minmatar, a bit cheaper, a bit more, less popular, I think, just because it's so difficult to skin for those, right? Compare what they're doing here on the Tornado with what they've done on the Ishtar, which is not in good symmetry. Here they basically have to go into symmetry, I think, because of the model and all of that stuff. So Vagabond, 8 million, again Minmatar, so it's gonna be a bit less noticeable. Yeah, still looks quite good with the white tones, but again is completely symmetric. The Wyvern actually has a regular day skin. Interesting, quite unique, very whitish on the front. But alright, I don't fly Wyverns. And then finally we have the Zealot as well, which in my opinion looks really good too. And what I like here is the lack of symmetry. That was the word that I was looking for here. You've got the blue going here, and so on this side you've got a bit more white, and on this side you get a bit more dark. right there. So, and what do these cost? 7 million ISK. So okay, the skins for this event, I personally, and I think most of the player base will be mostly interested in the regular Capsule Day 15-year skins. And they are quite affordable. So I would say if you want to have all of them, I think it's really cool. It shows that you've been playing around this anniversary. As we all know, EVE Online is going to last forever. And in 10-15 years time, this will be something quite unique to fly and to show off, I think. So really cool stuff, and I'm actually happy that they're so affordable. I am going to buy and hunt for all of them. That's going to be it for this week, guys. If you're still here, thank you for allowing me to indulge in this skin category. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.